For 80 years, Marvel has been at the forefront of storytelling, telling compelling stories about real people with real flaws who become superheroes and how they help others. And with nonfiction, it's the first time that we've really been able to explore the effect Marvel has had on the world and the effect the world has had on Marvel. And that's a really exciting time for us. It's really kind of playing on the fringes of what Marvel has always been. And it's become such an internationally loved brand that we just wanted to try to explore some new avenues that hadn't been told as much.
So to acknowledge the other people on the stage and make it a little less awkward,
yeah, please.
Let's talk about 616. And we'll start with you. What is 616?
Great, so I get to keep talking. So 616 is our first foray into kind of more doc-style nonfiction storytelling. For those of you who don't know, it is a bit of an Easter egg. 616 is the Earth 616 designation. So some of the recent Marvel films that you guys may have seen have talked about the multiverse. There are an infinite number of Marvel universes out there, and the Earth that we all live on is 616. I'm going full deep cut. Deep cut. And we thought it was a really fun title, though, because really this series is all about a concept that Stan always used to talk about, the world outside your window. Marvel is the world outside your window, and this is an opportunity to work with amazing people and kind of tell the stories of Marvel.
So,
please make me no longer talk.
Silly. So Jason, what's Supper Club's role in 616?
So Supper Club's role is really as producers who are kind of shepherding the project through the kind of anthology setup that we've kind of built around this, both with Marvel and with Disney. And part of that really is working with amazing filmmakers and bringing other voices in to interact both with us, with Marvel, with Disney, to try and find those stories that have gone on for decades now and really hone in and work with them on basically bringing those stories to life.
So delve into that a little bit more, because Marvel is about 8,000 characters within the pantheon of Marvel. How do you whittle that down? How do you work with them to identify that?
Extensively. The thing that we've ultimately found is that there are things that people find from a thematic or from a genre or from specific characters that they have brought from their own nostalgia, from their own past, or in certain cases, and Gillian will talk about this as well, but people who find something that is a common thread that they are latching onto and want to use that as a jumping off point to then us go work with Marvel to find something that relates back to that, to then let that become the driving narrative.
So Gillian, tell us about the doc that you're doing. It will kick off the series. Let everybody know what you're working on.
Well, I have the honor and the scary privilege of having the first episode of 616. And so I focus in my episode on various women who have worked at Marvel Comics as writers, editors, artists in different capacities over the decades. And it also turned into a nice brief history of women in comics in general. And to my great delight, I discovered early women of comics I'd never heard of working in the medium in the 1930s and 40s. And so it's really wonderful to tie that history of women in the medium to women from the 70s, 80s, all the way through the present day working at Marvel in comics.
There's so much in this country that divides us and everywhere, and the one thing that everybody has the same reaction about is when you mention high school. You have that pit in your stomach, whether it was amazing or traumatic or both. It really brings people together, and there was so much to do in the show. So we made the special for ABC, and then it ended up just being one special, and then we took it to Disney Plus, and they said yes immediately.
Who was that original cast or the original school in the first pilot? And were they hard to find?
No, the original... Who was the original? Well, guys, we're 12 in, so I can't even remember. Yeah, it was at West Covina. And what was the play? Into the Woods. Now I'm here. I'm back. Okay, it was Into the Woods at West Covina High School. And the submissions that were received for that show alone were in the thousands. When we started advertising everywhere on my page and different places, wherever you advertise, the amount of submissions we got, we couldn't even get through to pick the first cast, because what happens is we'd ask people, do you want to get back on stage? Would you want to do this? And then someone would send in a Skype interview and a bunch of information about their cast and say, we would want to do it here. Am I talking too fast? Sorry. Here are the 10 people who, trying to, I'm here.
Okay.
Here are the 10 people I was in the production with. Then we would have to call all of them. So there were a lot of logistics to put this together, but the one thing that was not difficult was finding people. No matter what job you had, everybody wanted to come back. Everybody jumped at the opportunity. I don't think anybody said no. There were certain people who were reticent about being filmed. I just feel hesitant about being on camera, but every single person wanted to come back and do their show. And I think that speaks to how much you grow as a human being from high school to adulthood, because we have a 44-year reunion in this show. We have a cast of Anything Goes at LA High that went to high school 44 years ago and come back on stage and they nail it! And everyone wanted to do it. There's something beautiful about reintroducing yourselves to your friends and shedding the labels that you had, the box you were in, before you knew how to communicate, before you knew what vulnerability meant, and coming back and getting to know people, making amends, saying things you wish you had said, or taking back something you wish you hadn't.
Who came up with the idea?
Jason Cohen. Is he here? No, he's not here. He didn't show. He had this idea about reuniting musical theater casts of any age. I mean, again, we spanned everything. We tried to hit everywhere around the country, every type of person. We have millennials, again, we have the 44-year reunion. And then Jason brought it to Olive Bridge, the beautiful production company, Richie and Will over here. And Will called me and said, we have this idea, we're not sure what it is yet, but it involves reuniting musical theater. And I said, yes, yes. And then we sat down and tried to figure out, what does an unscripted show like this look like? Unscripted shows sometimes involve a competition, and that didn't feel right. We wanted it to be about real people who wanted to do this for the sake of human connection.
It started about 6 years ago or so, believe it or not. I had screened my film on Pixar at Imagineering, and Marty Sklar, who was the former president of Imagineering, had seen it and just said to me afterwards, when are you going to do the Imagineering story? So I said, well, you tell me. And so that led to conversations with Imagineering and the presidents then, and basically said, what do you think you could do? And so we pitched a 90-minute film, and then put together a budget, and then waited till they came back, and they said, actually, we want to commission you for 5 years. And we want you to travel to all the parks around the world, and we want you to document behind the scenes and really capture the spirit of Imagineering and what they considered their golden age at that time. So this was like 2014 to about 2017, that time frame. So, you know, it was an amazing experience, kind of reliving my childhood. So that's kind of how it started.
This is such a kind of long and rich history, and you said it started off initially as a feature doc, but even in a series, how do you go about compressing so much history into 6 parts? And particularly when there must have been a huge amount of archives just to go through.
There was. It was incredible. So when we're on the journey of 5 years shooting, and really there was no editing during that budget. It was just shoot. So it was, you know, a month here and then a month there, and so we just gathered material, and then all along the way I was making notes as to how this thing was going to turn into a 90-minute film, but soon it became like we had an avalanche of material. And by the time we got to a cut, I said to the editors, just go long, you know, just start cutting to see what can really work. And we had 6 hours. We had a 6-hour cut. I mean, it was nuts.
To which you also have such a kind of deep personal connection.
I grew up in a kind of a household where my dad was the head of the machine shop at the Disney studio, and he was in charge of all the camera system, projection systems for all the parks around the world, you name it, a lot of inventions. My grandfather was co-creator of Mickey Mouse and was Walt's partner back in Kansas City, and Walt invited him to California. He was animator on the Alice in Cartoonland series, Oswald, and ultimately the Mickey shorts and the Silly Symphonies. He died when I was 1, so I never had the opportunity to know him. But I had done a film about him after graduating from USC Film School. That allowed me to really get a sense of what he did and ultimately sort of the place within the Disney company. And I just have such a deep love for the Disney company. It's like in my DNA. And I think the opportunity sort of as a kid to go behind the scenes and with my father to the machine shop, to the back lot of the studio and see like the Herbie Goes Bananas set. You know, this is before when they had a back lot. And I would just run around like a little kid out of control, you know. And the magic for me was the behind the scenes. And it was, so when we would go to the park, he would take me not in the front gate, but the back gate. And so I got to see all sorts of crazy stuff that, you know, to me it was like, wow, this is really the magic of Disneyland. It was going backstage. And so that was the wonder and the awe that I wanted to bring to this, because I really did feel like it was an opportunity to bring my sort of sense as a kid, you know, and that awe and wonder to it.
His life when you were drawing on him. How did that feel?
Or ruined his life, I don't know.
Was that scary to
It was
do that?
yeah, it was scary. What a responsibility. Yes, yes. They taught me, you saw, they taught me just before. I mean, Shanghai Kate gave me that little lesson, but there was I got some time between the two of them, and no, I didn't know what I was doing, so he allowed me to do just those few things. It wasn't it's not as if I did the whole tattoo, you know. But I like doing that.
Well, the little light bulb that you did, I mean, that was pretty impressive.
It was impressive? In
I
what
thought
way?
it looked pretty good. Well, I would be scared to hold that thing.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know about that. Yeah. Well, it's not going to do anything to you, you know. Yeah. And it was less, you know, scary on a little rubber hand than it was on that guy's calf, I'll tell you. Yeah.
All right, so in the trailer you say, I'm a humble student and in fact kind of a late bloomer, a late gold bloomer. First of all, did you write that yourself? Did you write that yourself, that you're a late gold bloomer?
Well, I'll tell you, not too I didn't write it, I extemporized it. That's one of the, if you're really asking, or if you like inside baseball, that was the one day we got together to do a kind of a promo to create that trailer, some wraparound stuff, that content for that trailer, which they always intend, I think, would be intercut with snippets of the episodes that they had at that point, and sort of not unlike, if you're interested in this, not unlike our approach to this material and how we rendered that on that day. There were some more conventional promptings for me and scripts of sorts and little questions. And I said, I like all this, but you know, I think if I have somebody to talk to, I like to, whether anybody's interested in it or not, I enjoy thinking and talking at the same time. You know what I mean? I like to read, I like to act, I like to read things and act like I'm, you know, either tweak them myself or act like I'm making them up. But I actually like to make up things. That's what I like to do. I like to talk. So on that day, I got into it, and they have clever editors on that. They picked some wheat from a lot of chaff, believe you me, like they do on this. And I just go, because I enjoy it with raw material. I give them raw material. I talk about all sorts of things. And then usually it's specifically new and special and refreshed because of whom I'm delivering it to and talking about. So I was talking actually with somebody who was interesting. They're very smart people who do that. And anyway, that one particular line just came out of our fooling around and our musings. So whatever it is, you know. So, but I thought, I'm interested in that. I think you can get quality moments out of that thing. I took improvisation from Sanford Meisner when I was 18 years old, and I've worked on that and taught acting for a couple of decades when I wasn't working, and improvisation interests me a lot, and it's become part of a way of working, finding things so-called, and delivering parts of performances, like in Portlandia, or I do some other things like that. So I sort of enjoyed that part of it.